Ois Zayin, the Rebbe will continue to find this difference between Rabbi Gamliel and the Chachamim, also in the area of tzedakah. Rebbe explains Zayin. Kishem b'megefin shitis Rabbi Gamliel v'Chachamim. Amudim, just as we find the view of Rabbi Gamliel and the Chachamim with regards to the two pillars. Fun Torah Tefillah brought down before. The Rebbe also added to it the Chaimer and Surah from the Ragachover, which he explained previously. But the cases that the Rebbe brought down was the case of Tefillah, in which the Shliach Tzibur or the community, or in Torah, where many students or quality students. So just like we find the view Gamliel Chachamim with regards to the two pillars, from Torah and Tefillah, we know there's three pillars. So by the we also find similarly by the third pillar from Tzedakah, which Gemilus Chasodim. Which is Tzedakah. In Gemara's Farana Plukta Bepirush HaPosik, there is a disagreement how to interpret the verse V'chesed le'umim chastos. The kindness of the nations is a sin. What does that mean? Rabbi Lezer said the chesed le'umim chatos is called tzedakah v'chesed she'umas akum oisim. All the charity and the kindness that the nations, the avodas kichavim mazolus, whatever they do, chaytahu lahem, it's actually a sin for them. She'enam oisim eloliz gadol boy, because the only reason they do it is to aggrandivate themselves, to make themselves big. So they're actually doing a sin because their purpose is for self-recognition. Rabbi Yeshua says, "Kol tzedakah chulu chaytul." Why is it a sin? Rabbi Yeshua's opinion: she'ein oisim elo k'dei shetimashech malchusam. That it's only done so that their government should be long. They have an ulterior motive. We'll soon see exactly the Rebbe teaches his gadol from the Marsha. When Rabbi Gamliel sagt, "Kol tzedakah v'chesed chulu," he says, "Chaytul hen." Why is it a sin? She'ein oisim elo lihisyar chulu. They only do it to brag. So, what's the difference between to become big or to brag? Is masbir der Marsha? The Marsha explains the chiluk do tzvishun lihis gadol boy. Only his Yahir boy. What's the difference between what Rabbi Lezer says to be big or to brag or lis Yahir? Lis gadol boy meant nit aloshin gedula v'chashivus. Here, gedula lis gad doesn't mean greatness and importance. Baldos is eichli his Yahir. That means to brag about it. That is that. No, this means gedola b'shonim sherichim yomim. Marsha explains that lis gadol boy for them to bring them long life. Long life. So Rabbi Eliezer says for a long life. Rabbi Yeshua says for the government to continue. Rabbi Gamliel says to brag about it. Does haste. So the difference as the chiluk between the erste zwei droshes for Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. So what's the difference between the two first expounding of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua on the droshes Rabbi Gamliel is, and the drosha, the expounding of Rabbi Gamliel is? Loit Zay, according to Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, state the chatos, what is the sin from the umes in them was their ton tzedakah v'chesed, that the reason why they do this charity and kindness is not tzulibun schar. They only do it for the reward. Mashenken loit Rabbi Gamliel, as opposed to Rabbi Gamliel, is their chederin. What is their sin? Consists of the fact was their chesed tzedakah is tzilub u'b'meila. It is, and there that it is, and that's why brings it to the midah v'chet von gaiba. It brings them to arrogance, lihisyayir. So it brings them to brag about it. So that's a either according to the first two, it is for an ulterior motive, and according to Rabbi Gamliel, it's for a negative in order to brag about it. Vos is the svaras haplukta. What is the reason, the logic behind this argument? Kemen zog, we can say, adosis parbundu meder shaila. This is also connected, tied to the question, vos is koiveya, which is what determines choimer oder tzura. Is it the materialism or it is the shape? That's similar to what we learned earlier with regards to the machlekes of ton lebechitim, ton lebechitim v'hoid lebisayim. That's bottom is a ches. That's bottom. What's the explanation? Zogun as the tzedakah v'chesed was olam tuem, to say that the charity and the kindness that the nations of the world do is nit bloiske mitzvah. To say that it's not only not a mitzvah, nor sis verkehrt, but it's opposite. It's actually a sin. Is as while as is geton ba'ofen, because it's done in a way as is doa chisorin in zeir chesed tzedakah. That means the chesed tzedakah, there's something lacking there. But the far is dos an inyan from chatos. That's why it's an inyan of chatos. In the mitzvah from tzedakah, there's two parts of tzedakah. Aleph, the ma'isa nisina la'oni, the act of giving to the poor person, basically zustellen dem oni seine tzrachim, to provide for the poor person his needs. And number two, beis, the eiches von the nisina, the quality, how you give it. Besever panim yofes, with a smiling, with a good countenance. A roizvaizu b'shas hanisina, to show at the time that you give some money, when you give to the poor person, zay mitgefil, that you feel for him. There, b'lshoin chazal, that as our sages would call it, one who appeases him with words. Und das is an in iker b'tzedakah. That's a main aspect of tzedakah, that other part of doing it in a kind way, in an appeasing way. Und das ist wie der Rambam pasket, as the Rambam rules, if you give to the poor person, but you do it, give it with a bad face, even if you give him 1,000 zuhuvim, a large amount of money, you lost your privilege, and you lost it. So und in dem besteht die Plukte zwischen Rabbi Gamliel mit der Friedike zwei Mann der Omer. And this is in what it consists, the disagreement between Rabbi Gamliel with the previous two Madomas. Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua, how their view is, as der Iker von Tzedakah is der Chomer v'Kamas. The main of Tzedakah is the material, is the quantity. The Peulas hanesina la'oni, that's the act of giving to the poor person. And therefore, is loitzei, according to their opinion, since the reason why the nations of the world do charity and kindness is Shem Scharis for reward, is as achatos, then it's a sin. Why? Since their entire goal, their purpose, by doing this tzedakah v'chesed, it's lib schar far zich. Is just for, they want the reward. That's it. They don't want to be part of giving away, but they want the schar, so they give it. But to such an extent do they not want it, as if they won't receive them schar, this reward, then they are regret. I don't want to give tzedakah, because the whole purpose of the tzedakah is only for the reward that comes with it. So it turns out, as is in their ma'isa nisina, that there's something lacking in the act of giving. As is abgemosten leit zeyer rotzen baschar v'goyd laschar. The charity that you give is lacking because it's measured according to how much reward and how big the reward is. Nit loit tzorcheoni. Don't go by the needs of the poor person. They're not occupied what to give, that the poor person needs his needs. They're just worried about themselves to take care of themselves, so they should continue long life, or their kingdom should be prolonged. This is why Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua, and that's why it's a sin, because your tzedakah is going to be measured according to only what you get from it. Ashenkin Rabbi Gamliel halt, but Rabbi Gamliel he holds that the ikar for the zach is ein tzura ve'echus. The main thing of everything is its shape, its quality. Al derech zeh by tzedakah, similar by tzedakah. As der ikar from tzedakah is der v'hamafaisi. The main thing of tzedakah is to give it with in an appeasing way. That's why fitting what he thinks tzedakah, the main part is to do it in a pleasant, in an appeasing way, and that consists of sin. In zeyer tzedakah v'chesed, in there what they do tzedakah v'chesed, nit in zeyer ton l'shem schar, not that doing it for reward, because the practical. According to Rabbi Gamliel, that doesn't really impact the tzedakah. Tzedakah is not impacted by what you want to give, because the quantity, the facts on the ground, you're giving him the money, and that's it. Whether you have an ulterior motive, that's not as important. But what is important to Rabbi Gamliel? Not in them was zeitunas lihisyair. Problem is that they're doing it to brag about it. Chashivos v'gadlus hanoisen. They are dealing here. They want to give importance and greatness to the giving, but thus is achisorn in them echus hatzedakah. That is lacking, takes away from the quality of tzedakah. The rikar from tzedakah is their saver ponim yofis. The main thing of tzedakah is to give it with a nice countenance, mitfil umefai zayin them oni, to feel along and to appease the poor person. But das ist shaykh nor when der neusen halt sich nicht hecher von dem oni. That's only when the giver doesn't think of himself higher than the poor person. Und da is the nesinas tzedakah, but when the chesed lumim chatos is when he gives the tzedakah, according to Rabbi Gamliel, when he gives tzedakah v'chesed, in an oifen hofif von am feise. This is just the opposite of appeasing him. Lihisyair. This is to brag. Gaiva v'gasna ruach. Arrogance of spirit. So therefore, that impacts the quality of tzedakah, and that is the main thing according to Rabbi Gamliel. So why do we need to say this in all cases? Again, as we made the tzrichasa before, so here we also have a need to bring down this case as well, notwithstanding that we already have the other cases. So Lozun Heren Das Rabbi Gamliel, in order to teach us, let us know Rabbi Gamliel's opinion as Echus V'Tzura is Machriya, that the quality and the shape is what is the deciding factor. Because there is a novelty in his view of Rabbi Gamliel B'Negei Tzedakah, if once it is related and connects to tzedakah, legabe dezel b'shita, with regards, even though the same view by andere divrei kedusha, by other matters of kedusha, tefillah and beis hamedrash, davening and beis hamedrash. So we still need to teach Rabbi Gamliel's halacha, the chiddush, by tzedakah. In Yonam v'ikram from Torah and tefillah, the main and the idea of Torah and davening, Torah and prayer, is nit azoy der chomer. It's not so much the materialism nor the echos v'tzura shalom. The most important thing is the quality and the shape of the ikar inyan from Torah. The main aspect of Torah is the havonas inyan hal nilmad, is to understand the subject that is being taught or is being learned. And also that it's a study in depth which leads to action. But this is an inyan ikri in Torah. That's a main aspect of Torah. So it's all the quality. Learning is quality. Al derech zeh by tefillah, and similarly is by prayer, is ikra avodah shebelev. It's mainly what's in your heart. Kavona, the intent, know before you're standing. So it's all a quality. The whole idea is quality. But when you talk about tzedakah, over there is quantity. Over there, it's important what you give to the poor person. Mashen Kain, by tzedakah, as opposed by tzedakah, is just lahepach. It's just the opposite. Iker inyan hatzedakah is lamalis tzorchei ha'oni. The main idea of tzedakah is to fill the poor person's need, as errors that he should receive what he needs. And therefore, can men on the men, so one can accept as is nit negaya the kavona funem noisen, that it's not important what the giver thinks, nor the kabbalah's oni over there. What's tzedakah? It's all about what the oni receives, the poor person receives. When we state in Sifri, as it's stated in the Sifri, as when einer is ma'abed selah b'tech yod, if one loses a selah out of his hands, umotza oni, and then a poor person finds it, and then he goes and he uses it for his support for his livelihood. The Torah counts it for him as if he had the merit of feeding this poor person, even though he didn't know that he dropped it, he didn't want to give it. But the end of the day is his coin ended up giving parnasa to the oni. So since we're talking about tzedakah, where the most important thing is what the oni receives, maybe in this case we wouldn't know that Rabbi Gamliel also puts the emphasis that it has to be the quality. Is volt gestanden shittas Rabbi Gamliel nor by tefillah and Torah. If Rabbi Gamliel's view would have just been stated by tefillah and Torah, volt man gekent zogen, then you could have said, as by tzedakah is armoida, by tzedakah he would agree, as the rikir is kamus, that the main thing is kamus, not the new interpretation that it is liisyair, that it takes away from the quality. Darf der Riber stehen befedish, sein shita by tzedakah. That's why he needs to say explicitly his view with regards to tzedakah. No, that also by tzedakah lahashmienu, to teach us, as oich do halt Rabbi Gamliel as megate was that also by tzedakah, still Rabbi Gamliel view is that we go after the quality. But on the other hand, on the other hand, from Shittas Rabbi Gamliel benegaya zu tzedakah, what man nicht gekannt that rausbringen, from Shittas, when what man nicht gekannt that rauslernen, wie sein Shitta is benegaya tefillah beis hamedrash, we couldn't learn what his view is with regards to davening the beis hamedrash, that there too it's the shliach tzibur and it is the quality of the students. In Rav Gamliel himself, not just the Rabban Val by tzedakah, is blois negeya velcha from the tzvei is kaveya. But there, it's only it's important which of the two is what sets choimer v'kamus or the tzura ve'echus. Is it the materialism, the quantity, or the shape and the on the quality? Ba'oifun nazachroas echus. Minute need the kamus. That means that when you the quality of the tzedakah, that doesn't take away from the amount of tzedakah. It's just an additional. It's a quality that doesn't impact the quantity. But the tefillah beis hamedrash, they're opposing. It's either the shliach tzibur or the tzibur. It's either teiche kabari or not. If you decide that you want the quality, then you don't have good students, then you don't have everybody davening. We're talking about the original idea of tefillah b'tzibur. By Beis HaMedrash, and by Beis HaKamus ma'otav talmidim, nor shetechem kibaron, you're actually going to have a lesser quantity of students, only those that are techem kibaron, they're inside like they're outside. Anstot Beis HaMedrash with ribus of solim, instead of a study hall full with benches. Unochmer by tefillah, and even more so by davening, was the ganzer teichen ha'eches von ha'shas b'shteit in miuta kamos. Over there, the actual quality, why is a shliach tzibur so important, Rabbi Gamliel, that eches, is because in miuta kamos, because we don't have so many different people davening, but one person davening for everybody. As in the talk in the ribu kamos tefillas, that there is not a lot of tefillas, nor blows ain't tefillah for the ganzen tzibur. The power becomes that there is no kamus. And the Rebbe Voltman from Zayin Shita by tzedakah. Therefore, that from his view by tzedakah, that there is Eichus and the Mefaisei is Lisyair, which is the opposite of Mefaisei. That the Mefaisei is the main thing. We would not learn as Eich Bazei Geter Basar Eichus, that also by Torah and Tefillah goes after the quality, because it only goes over there where the continence, the appeasement is not a contradiction to the quantity. But over here, where is a contradiction, maybe we won't go by the quality. So from the above, we can also understand how the Chachamim will do the tzricha, because since in both of these reasonings, according to the Chachamim, you would think that maybe as the Rebbe said before, that maybe only by Torah and Tefillah do the Chachamim say we go by Kamus, because and not by tzedakah, because on the contrary, we would think that only by also by tzedakah. We would think only by tzedakah, where quantity is the main thing. Over there, the rabbis say that we should go after quantity, but tefillah and Torah, which is tzedakah, maybe they will agree to Rabbi Gamliel. And the same thing is in the second svara that the Rebbe brought down, that maybe only by tzedakah, over there they will disagree with the Tanakama only by Torah and Tefillah, because over there they say the Kamus overrides, because if not, the Eichus will be impacted. So therefore, but we don't know what the Chachamim will hold. Maybe by tzedakah they'll agree with with Rabbi Gamliel that it's not impacted. So let it be also the Eichus. So, but from the Machloikis they say Liisyair, and they say the other reasons we see that the Chachamim still say that it is because of the Kamus, and the Rabbi Gamliel says because of the Eichus. Yud. Yesh Loimar. So the Rebbe says we can say, as der Chidush in Shitas Rav Gamliel was we learned top from Tfilos Hashatz, the novelty that we learn in Rav Gamliel, that we learn from davening by the Chazan that we said before, as Eich an Eichus was his Memayit Hakamos, that also a quality which inherently it diminishes the quantity is Machriya, is verbunden mit Inyone shel Rabbi Gamliel als Nossi. That is tied to the fact that Rabbi Gamliel was a Nossi. The Nekuda Ikris von a Nossi is was a Nossi is Davke Einer. The main point of a Nossi, there's only one Nossi. The main point, Al Derech, similar to a king, be a Melech. What says, Ken Zain a Mishnah lemelech, it could be a second to the king, it can be a plag keser, it can be a half a keser. But a melech, full keser, a full king, can sein nor einer, can only be one. The metzias von zwei melachim. When could you have two kings? Can sein nor wenn zer meluches b'shnei mekoimes. If the kingdom is in two separate places, al derech Malchi Yehuda, Malchi Yisrael. The kings of Yehuda were in Yerushalayim, and Malchi Yisrael were in the rest. The Tamadover is, why is a king only one? Well, a nosu melech is an inyan shel eichus. The Nosi, a king, what the idea is quality. Kidua, as known as a Nosi Melech, is the Nekudas Hamatzias from Ganzen Am. That a leader, the Nosi, the prince, and the king are the point of the existence of the entire people. Was their far is their inyan for a Nosi HaMelech. That's why the idea of a Nosi and a Melech and a king and a leader and a prince nicht verbunden mit Ribuy HaKamos. It's not tied to lot with lots of quantity, nor lehepech, but just the opposite. Eris Einer, he is only one. He takes away, he's on his own. They're muat b'yosin and kamos. This is the least quantity that you can have, just one. Nor is ein Meile, but what is this version? Is Davki Goyd Leichus, is in his great quality. Und der Far, and because of the great quality, is there was his ma'achet as kol ha'amu manhigoi. He unites all the people and he leads them. Und der Far is ein Shite benegei letfila, and that's why his view as it pertains to the davening, as Eichus is nit nor that Iker, not only is the quality the main, nor es is negeat kol kach, it is so important quality as es is machriya filim and dos is memayed betachlis the kamos. Even when this totally diminishes, takes away the quantity, you only have one person davening, but you got a qualitative. That's it. That's what a king is. Und das ist euch der Chiluk Hashitas zwischen Rabbi Gamliel und the Chachamim. This is also the different views between Rabbi Gamliel and the sages. They were members, they were friends, they were members of the Sanhedrin. Was der Inyan von Chavri Sanhedrin, the idea of being a member in the Sanhedrin is Ribuy HaKamos. That's talking about a lot of quantity. Warum Sanhedrin was hoping them Ribu von Ayin Aleph. Sanhedrin that must have the number, the large number of 71, Ayin Aleph. And even if one is missing, let it be the smallest, the least important of them. Is just Nitki Sanhedrin. It's not a Sanhedrin. You need numbers. Und der Far is there, Plukta Klolis. That's from this stems their general disagreement, Kiniska Leil. As mentioned earlier, Tziribu HaKamos is Machriya Eichus, whether the large quantity outweighs the quality, or the Lehepech, or the other way. As it is emphasized in their disagreement as regards to davening. The Chachamim hold that the prayer of the community is the main. This would be similar to the members of the Sanhedrin. You need it to be 71. As opposed to Rav Gamliel, his view is as tfilas hashatz iker. The prayer of the shliach tzibur is the main. The baldas, the shatz, the shliach tzibur, is the nekudas ha'eichus from the ganzen tzibur. He is the point of the quality of the entire community. B'dugmas hanosi, similar to the leader, the prince was is the nekudas ha'eichus from the ganzen am. He is the point of the quality of the entire people. This is Mesichas Vav Tishrei V'Yoim Simchas Torah Tovshin Lamed Zayin.